Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I bring you an update on the recent events. After the alien attack on Earth earlier this year, the world's leading scientists developed a solution that took out most of the alien ships. But following the aftermath, radiated ooze from the UFOs resulted in mutated creatures all around the world wreaking new havoc. People run in panic in the streets. The military has sent as much response as they can muster, but it doesn't seem like it'll be enough. Oh, will the horrors of this invasion never cease?
War of the Monsters is a game that was released by Incognito Entertainment on the PlayStation 2 on January 14, 2003. The game is mainly a tribute to old monster and science fiction films, but it takes all of that inspiration and makes it into a simple game that's easy to pick up and a ton of fun to play. From giant monsters to giant robots, living statues, dragons, and aliens, this is definitely a game that needs a sequel. Starting from the drive-in home screen to the options menu, unlockables, and load game screen, everything was reminiscent of a drive-in movie ready to show the creature feature flick of the week. There's not much to this game, but its simplicity is what makes it great. This game has a few different options when it comes to the gameplay, with options for 1 or 2 players. One player offers the story mode, Adventure, a classic free-for-all battle mode, and Endurance. In the Adventure mode of this game, you travel from city to city, facing each new monster appearing in locations reminiscent of popular cities like Las Vegas, Tokyo, and Washington, D.C. Each level featured a movie poster of the monster you were about to face. This was one of my favorite parts of the game, just filling out the whole retro movie monster aesthetic. The story also had 3 boss fights with sort of mini-boss levels right before the main fight. The first was Goliath Prime with his ant mini-bosses, the Kineticlops mini-bosses with Vegon as the second boss fight, and finally the small Zorgulons and the big one as the final boss. The Zorgulons were the alien species that invaded the Earth. After defeating the adventure mode, you would get a reveal of the origin of the monster you fought with a unique cutscene. Available in 1 player or 2 is the free-for-all mode, choosing your fighters, how many computers, and your locations, as well as Endurance, where another enemy would spawn immediately after you defeated the current one until you lose. The game also offers 3 mini-games in Dodgeball, Big Shot, and Crush-O-Rama. Dodgeball, of course, being a very simple interpretation of the original game with an element of hot potato to make sure a player doesn't hold the ball for too long. Big Shot being a target game where you would rush off of the ramp to get points, and Crush-O-Rama where you would compete against another player to earn as many points by destroying all of the buildings in the map. Now, the real attraction of this game is playing as these monsters, giants in their world, throwing each other around the city as it crumbles with them. You can fight until the whole city is nothing but a pile of dust, fighting the whole way by picking up steel beams and rubble to beat the enemy with, or impaling them with a radio tower or broken pole, then hitting them with the meanest combo of the century. And while you're doing all of that, you want to make sure you choose the right monster. A few of these characters parody famous movie monsters, while the others are originals. Starting off with Togera, inspired by Godzilla. Praetor, a giant praying mantis inspired by old movies that would use live bugs as their monsters, mainly the movie Them, and Kongar, clearly inspired by King Homer. The original monsters are Robo-47, designed to be a rough military type from the 1950s, shooting nukes. Agamo, the living statue inspired from island cultures, and Ultra V, a much more clean robot from Japan, similar to the other robots from early anime. Magmo, a walking volcano with 4 arms, and Kineticlops, made up of pure electricity. There are also 2 unlockable characters in the game in the form of Raptros, a dragon, and Zorgulon, the alien invading the Earth. Each fighter has a long-ranged and short-range special move, with the short range being basically the same for each character, but the long range being different for everyone. My absolute top 3 in the game have to be Kongar, Magmo, and Kineticlops. Each fighter also has 4 different unlockable skins, with each one getting mainly 2 color variations, a robot version, and a unique design for the 4th skin. The coolest ones in my opinion have to be Sweet Tooth from Twisted Metal for Agamo, and the Skeleton Dragon form for Raptros. The music in this game is heavily inspired by the old monster movies of the 50s and 60s, utilizing flutes, violins, and booming horns. The music level during the fighting would also depend on the interaction of the fighters, so the more you fight, the more intense the music gets. This was a simple, fun game to bust out with the PlayStation 2 and friends back in the day, with the game getting pretty good reviews upon its release for its destructible environments and easy gameplay. But that was back then. I love this game and I'll still play it today, but a sequel to this game could be so much more. There was a remaster for this game for the PlayStation 4 released in 2014, but it is just the same game. This game was a great way to experience being a giant monster fighting through the city streets, with its gameplay layout being super enjoyable in a fighting game, not being a 2D or stage fighter similar to Smash Bros. The new monsters that could come from a sequel could be insanely imaginative and just plain cool to play as, keeping the original roster of characters and maps, but also adding new locations, larger maps, the option to play with more than 2 players, the ability to play online, and adding so many more skins. They could even branch off in other sequels and make a game with the same mechanics but entirely underwater, with giant sea monsters like squids, crabs, sharks, Cthulhu, making up new crazy sea monsters. They could even go smaller scale, similar mechanics but making parodies of famous horror movie villains or monsters. The possibilities for a franchise like this could be great, and this is the kind of game that I would love to see a sequel to someday. With this game having its 21st anniversary coming up soon, I hope it's one that has a future still coming.